Well, hi, Week in the Tacklers. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast, bonus episode. The second time we've got together this week to tackle things in the world of football we thought were interesting. That's Brian Dunny Dunseth over there, MLS legend. I'm Tom Rennie, not even a legend amongst the Rennies, but I'm here. And our bonus episode this week, which we might do across the season actually, is going to be about Major League Soccer because it's back for the season, the final season of the calendar being like this. The season's also going to be broken up by the whole World Cup thing that's happening right in the middle. So a bunch of players, the likes of Bond, James Rodriguez, signing for Minnesota to get in shape for the World Cup and maybe staying beyond. We'll find out together. So, Dunny, as you're working with Apple this season, covering a whole bunch of games, traveling around the country, we thought we would just dive into your expertise on what's going on. I, of course, am not anywhere near as expert on MLS as you are. I do try and watch Columbus Crew games. I do try and watch the highlights of as much as possible for Sirius XM FC and our football shows. But I will say, it's a fucking impossible league to get across. Sorry, Tim.
So many games.
There are so many games. There are so many stories. And the first weekend is always incredibly hard in any league because with the best row in the world, you've not been able to watch the pre-season of like whoever. So it's always a bit tough. So I'm going to challenge you this week to try and get us across what has been going on and who you like and the runners and riders and whatnot. So let's start with, give us a general impression of the first weekend, where you've been, what you've been up to, who you enjoyed, who you didn't, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Max Bretos and I were down in San Diego. We had San Diego FC, Western Conference champions, playing host to CF Montreal, Marco Donadel. Listen, the highlight of the weekend was LAFC Inter Miami. I think all the eyeballs were going to be at that game. It wasn't at BMO Stadium where LAFC plays their normal football. It's right across the street, not even across the street, right across. It's literally like one driveway that separates them from the Coliseum. It's around 76,000 people showed up for LAFC against Inter Miami. We were concerned about Lionel Messi. It wasn't going to be available. He'd picked up a little bit of a hamstring issue. We know that they're going to have to manage him throughout the course of the season, obviously with Argentina and the World Cup during the course of the summer. There's going to be games he's available. There's going to be games where they rest him. But he is obviously the main draw, the main ticket in Major League Soccer, being the greatest of all time, the GOAT, all due respect to Cristiano, Pele, and Diego Maradona. Now, here's the thing. I was saying to Max as we were watching the game, remember, Coliseum's a little bit tighter. And he's like, what? And I was like, look at the hash marks from the corner to the 18-yard box. It's about 6 yards on either side. So it was a little bit more condensed, a little bit tighter. So we were kind of...
Why is that?
Well, because the field, the confines, where the seats are, you'll see a lot of like NFL stadiums, college stadiums, like big stadiums. They're a little bit tighter to maximize the size. Where like at the Rose Bowl, it's a little bit deeper, a little bit further away from the stand. So you're going to get the complexity of like a huge field. A little bit tighter the confines at Coliseum. So first thing we're thinking about is health. We're thinking about starting 11s and we're thinking about the matchups. And Marc Dos Santos for LAFC, there was all this talk, and he was really pontificating about how they were going to be a possession-based team, whereas Javier Mascherano and the MLS Cup winning Inter Miami team, Bertarami gets his debut for the side. We know Allende's full-time, Salvetti, Segovia, who's going to be in the midfield. I was questioning how they were going to look, obviously without Busquets, without Alba. The answer, Ayala coming over from Portland. You got Yannick Bright alongside Rodrigo De Paul. Noah Allen slides out to that left-hand side. Serge Reguilon's nowhere to be found. Mikael, who used to be at Houston, the Brazilian center back, comes in the center back. And Dane Sinclair comes down as goalkeeper from Minnesota United. I know these are a lot of data points. At the end of the day, comfortable 3-0 win for LAFC. The flash points were there physically on the field, flash points afterwards. Inter Miami dominates possession, about 68% possession, just 32% possession if my Cal State Fullerton math works out for LAFC. 3.27 XG versus like a 0.87 XG for Miami. 6 big chances for LAFC. Only 1 big chance for Inter Miami. That's credited to Lionel Messi. Hugo Lloris came up with 1 big save. Another Messi flashes wide. Overall, really impressive performance for LAFC. Quite the statement. And usually when you're talking about the travel awareness of Inter Miami, that means you're going to see a lot of Argentina jerseys or you're going to see a lot of pink Inter Miami jerseys. Credit to the LA Southern California faithful. They might have been out there to see Inter Miami and Lionel Messi, but there was a lot of black and gold inside that stadium. And I just wonder how many new fans LAFC gained around the world for putting in that type of performance because they planted their flag qualifying for FIFA Club World Cup. They've obviously won MLS Cup on a few occasions. When you think about some of the big names, the Chiellinis, the Gareth Bales, the Carlos Velas, to now see Son Heung-min, I just think very quietly they are starting to elevate their status around the world of how they play. And in terms of eyeballs, that was a really fun game to watch. And I just wonder how many, say, Club America fans or Tottenham Hotspur fans or Barcelona fans all of a sudden tuned in to watch that game because of Lionel Messi and were like, "Oh, I like the way they play. I think I'm gonna root for LAFC."
How many there for Son, Dunny? You've been doing a lot of LAFC sort of coverage.
There's a lot of Spurs, a lot of South Korean fans. Yeah,
it's a big sort of like South Korean diaspora in LA, right?
Well, not only that, but because of the World Cup experience, there's a lot of Mexican fans that are huge Sonny fans because of what happened at the World Cup a couple of years ago. So there also becomes, what I don't think people truly understand, and having lived it and seen it up close, calling so many Son Heung-min LAFC games, and then doing the podcast with Max Bredos last year, literally overnight, the numbers exploded. And it's not just from South Korea. It's from an Asian fan base that's, absolutely in love with Son Heung-min. So I think, and the fact that he's literally like one of the nicest human beings, like nobody ever speaks poorly of Son Heung-min. Like you got to go really deep dive to find somebody who dislikes Sonny. So I just think he's this pop culture kind of iconic, not the David Beckham 100 million%. He goes through every layer of fandom, but he's up there. He is really, really up there. So much so that they couldn't even keep his jerseys in stock for more than 24 hours because there was that. I mean, there was one point where Sonny was the number one jersey in all sports, all categories being sold. So, yeah, to your point.
Do people know him in normie land? Like when you speak to non-football people, they know David Beckham, they know Lionel Messi. Would Son be someone you'd talk about at the dinner table with non-soccer
not
people?
As much, not like David Beckham. I think he just transcends, every culture. But I can tell you from going and watching last year at Real Salt Lake and just being a fan, I wasn't working the game, took the boys, the amount of Son Heung-min jerseys, whether that was South Korea or that was Tottenham Hotspur, was unlike anything. I mean, you didn't have that effect with Gareth Bale. You didn't have that effect with Chiellini. You didn't have that effect with Hugo Lloris. You didn't have that effect with anybody else. It's only Sonny. And to the point where like fans were standing and applauding when he scored against Real Salt Lake and almost got his hat trick. So it's a huge effect. It really is.
One other quick bit on this, and I want to get to a couple of other games. The Lionel Messi post-match stuff. There was a few kind of social media phone videos of him seemingly chasing down the referee. I'll put it in those terms. You can tell me if that's wrong.
So there's a video. He was walking in front of the referee. He had traded jerseys with Denny Bouanga. And as he's walking, the referees are kind of to his left. The fourth official's trying to separate him, not physically, but just walking to keep him separated. There's so many different protocols about protecting the referees. Obviously, he saw some red mist. He was unhappy. He escalated it to the point where he wanted him, instead of like afterwards walking off the field, and you see the managers and the referee and the players like, blah, 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 you did whatever. He was, the video shows him walking, and he's letting him know that he's unhappy, which is fine. But I think where it caused confusion is there's historically a section of, and again, this is at the Coliseum. This is not at BMO Stadium. So the regulations are different. The awareness of players to know when to, okay, I've got to break off. It looked a little bit different. Subsequently, we've seen Chris Rivet from Pro publicly come out and say, when you see Messi and Suarez is trying to hold him back, enter this one room. Everyone assumed that was the referee's area, secure area.
Right, but it wasn't.
Well, but we found out that there was another area further down. That was just where the referees were peeling off. But that still suggests Lionel Messi needs to be very, very careful because obviously, to your point, he's going to have a level of what's acceptable versus what's in the gray area. And I think he started walking into the gray area because optically it looks terrible. Everybody knows it looks terrible. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. Essentially, everyone was assuming the moment that he entered that door and Suarez is trying to pull him out, that was going to be an automatic suspension because Matt Biazga entered the referee's premises for FC Cincinnati a couple of years ago, got himself a three-game ban. But again, Messi's been cleared, but it's more about the optics. I mean, they were taken apart. He was frustrated. He didn't feel like the whistles were going his way, and he let the referees know his distaste for whatever their performance looked like. But it sounds like it's all good. Sounds like he's going to be available next Sunday on the road at Orlando City.
Yeah, his chippiness is going to be a story this season.
It will be.
Going to need to follow.
Yeah.
Got a question for you. Am I meant to say Red Bull New York now as opposed to New York Red Bulls?
Yeah.
Because I know they put that little video out back end of last season, and then I sort of didn't see an official announcement of it. It seems like they're officially RBNY as opposed to NYRB or Red Bull RB New York or whatever it was previously. I've noted that a few websites have now got them as New York RB as opposed to the other way around. I mean, I don't know. You could look into this and tell me.
There's a couple things, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird. But also, on the field, great start under Michael Bradley this weekend.
Michael Bradley did great, man. Listen, I've never liked, and again, I know because his father played such a massive role in the game here in the United States. And, while Bob Bradley was his manager at the national team, Michael had a huge role. Separate Michael's performances. I mean, if you strip the back name off of his jersey and you judge a player that started in Major League Soccer, went and played in Holland, played in England, played in Germany, played in Serie A, played at all these different levels, pre-Weston McKennie and pre-Christian Pulisic, we're saying absolutely we want every young player to have that type of experience and to play 140 some times for the national team. We'd be talking about he's an instant U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer immediately without any criticism whatsoever about his play. For some reason, Michael got this, he and Josie got the brunt of the failure to qualify down in Trinidad and Tobago for the 2018 World Cup. And I'm still confused as to why they were the two that were the hot button topic when it was collectively a failure. Michael is going to be insanely successful as a manager. He's just built to be a manager. He just is. So for what he and Julian de Guzman, former Canadian international, are building right now, two young, dynamic people in both sporting director and head coach position. Michael was outstanding last year with Red Bull 2. So much so, I think immediately that's why you're seeing them lean into some of the kids so heavily to start the season. They were fantastic on the road in Orlando. Your question about the name itself?
Yes.
Listen, you can go in a bunch of different directions. Red Bull Salzburg versus RB Leipzig because they can't use Red Bull in the name. I was always under the assumption they were using New York Red Bull as something to separate themselves, to highlight New York, even though they're in New Jersey, which is a big conversation for Tony Mule and the great state of New Jersey.
Why can't they just be New Jersey? Why is New Jersey continually saying it's New York? Is that too much of
a
hornet's nest?
New Jersey wants nothing to do with the name New York. I can promise you that.
So why are they not the New Jersey Red Bulls?
Well, why are you saying the World Cup Finals in New York when it's in New Jersey?
I'm just doing what I'm told.
Yeah,
it's basically in a big car park, isn't it? The World Cup Final.
MetLife is in New York. Yeah, it's in New Jersey, in the great state of New Jersey. So it's kind of easy for me to poke the bear, Tony Miola, over and over about the great state of New Jersey and the Carney dump. It sounds like that's what they wanted. I mean, Red Bull New York, I know it's gone back and forth. It's been floated for a while. It's going to take a while to change the vernacular of New York Red Bulls, NYRB versus RBNY. But I tried my best today, so we'll see what it looks like.
Why aren't they RB New York like RB Leipzig? Why New York RB is weird. I just think they've chosen the weirdest of all the options. They should just be called RB New Jersey or the Metro Stars. RB Metro Stars would have been better. No?
I mean, there was whispers there. Well, there was whispers there for a while that they were going to sell. Red Bull was going to sell and go back to Cosmos back in the day of New York Cosmos, which if you theoretically are trying to tug at the heartstrings of soccer here in the United States, well, the Cosmos are obviously at one time the most identifiable soccer team to ever grace the field in the United States because of Pele and Canaglia and everybody else that played for him before my time. But
that's what we all say, mate. Don't lie to us. So look, we could. There's so much MLS. Again, we could do 7 hours on this. Listen to Dunny on Counter Attack on Sirius.
Can I tell you who I enjoyed this week? So I'll give you a quick one.
Give us one more.
Cincinnati 2-0 winners over Atlanta United, big performance. DC United, Ty Baribo getting the game winner against his former club, Philadelphia Union. That was a surprise to everybody. FC Dallas, 3-2 winners over Toronto FC. Meh. Houston, 2-1 winners over Chicago. Keep an eye on Houston. I think they've very quietly put together a very dangerous roster in the Western Conference. Ben Olsen and company. Nashville absolutely smashed the New England Revolution. I don't know if it says more about Nashville or says less about the Revs with Marko Mitrovic taking over. Portland Timbers getting a late winner from Ariel Lassiter over Columbus Crew. Readjust your Columbus Crew perspective because it's not Bezbachenko and it's not Wilfred Nancy. It's going to take a while. San Diego smashed CF Montreal. They are the real deal, San Diego. Montreal are the real deal for the wrong reasons. And then very surprisingly, again, I don't know who it says more about, San Jose Earthquakes without Chicho, without Christian Espinosa, with no Timo Werner, 3-0 winners over Sporting Kansas City. I think Sporting Kansas City's in some real trouble. In Seattle, 2-0 winners over Colorado. All that hype around Matt Wells in Colorado haven't looked good in some of these preseason games. Seattle, very, very, very competent performance.
Where's Timo Werner? What's happened to him? Is he not fit? What's the deal?
Had a baby. And so then coinciding with paperwork, the timing of the baby and the paperwork and getting over it, he should be here and available for next week, I believe. So that's what but again, the one thing to keep in mind, because of what's happening politically here, all of the foreign players that are coming in are having paperwork issues. They come in, do their medical, sign their paperwork, maybe train for a couple days, maybe be a part of preseason. They are then going to have to go to their country of origin, who they represent for their national teams, go back, and what used to take 4 to 7 days is now taking 7 to 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't think you're going to see the full complement of teams probably until week 5 was when we'll get a better understanding, because some of these players are having to stay in a hotel, train by themselves. They're not on the field, and it's taking up to 2 to 3 weeks for them to get the appropriate paperwork. On top of clubs that were planning on players getting green cards, they were like 5 to 10% done. That slowed down significantly, which means that's why you're seeing so many of these international roster spot trades going back and forth. And by the way, quick news, Josh Sargent, 22 to 27 billion.
Crazy.
Toronto had to send 500 in general allocation money plus another 200 in general allocation money to St. Louis, because as they divested of allocation order, St. Louis got to pick one player that they could, quote unquote, have first rights to. That was Josh Sargent. And now they ended up making 700 because Josh Sargent now is signed with Toronto. So Toronto's going all in. 700 general allocation money gone, plus the up and over the top as a designated player. He could theoretically be the most expensive player ever signed in Major League Soccer when it's all said and done.
Is that wise? Would you encourage that? I mean, I've seen Josh Sargent play. I'm not sure I'd be paying that sort of money for him. Bless him.
Here's the way I look at it. There's a history with Josie Altidore, with Michael Bradley, with Sebastian Giovinco. Obviously, what happened with the 2 Italian players that failed miserably under Bill Manning's stewardship. If he gets Toronto, if he's your guy, and statistically he puts Toronto goal scoring on the map, well, then that's money well spent. Yeah. But if you think that Josh Sargent is going to have the effect that Sung Hyung-min has had at LAFC, no chance is he touching that commercial, like the capital that they're making from the ROI on the commercial availability. Because Sargent's not going to sell the jerseys that,
unless he scores 25 goals, gets them in the playoffs, they win the conference, they win MLS Cup, and he's the US starting striker in the summer and scores a hat-trick against someone in the group stage. If he does all that, he might sell some shirts.
Not with the way that Flo Balogun's scoring goals.
Is he even in the squad? Is he going to be in the squad?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Josh Sargent makes the team. Flo Balogun consistently scoring goals in League and Liga as well as Champions League. Ricardo Pepi scoring goals in the Eredivisie at Champions League, and the conversation around him moving to Fulham. Haji Wright banging in goals left and right for Coventry City. Patrick Agyemang, I think, is up to 12 goals now. So
he's fifth choice US striker, and he could be the most expensive signing in.
I think you got to separate those two. I think for Josh Sargent, the criticism is he hasn't scored the goals for the U.S. men's national team in the way that he scored for Norwich City. And what Toronto FC needs is an absolute goal scorer. And their thought process is if he's consistently scoring for Norwich City, he could do the same for Toronto FC. That's exactly what we need. Those are two different arguments, but yeah. I think if Josh Sargent was still scoring goals at Norwich City, I still don't think player profile wise, Haji Wright and Patrick Ajiman have a different player profile that would be more beneficial at a World Cup level than what Josh Sargent's player profile is now. Because he's had the opportunities, he's never taken it with both hands.
I wonder whether he gets looked at a bit more even in Toronto, considering Norwich. No one cares about Norwich. Even in Norwich, they're not watching Norwich. They're a struggling team in the Championship. Maybe they look at it more.
So here's the problem, okay? Is there, theoretically, right? We're now third week of February. Mauricio Pochettino, in 2.5 weeks' time, is going to put his roster together for Belgium and Portugal and Atlanta. So then you're telling me by the end of May, so he's going to have 6 weeks. If he goes on a 6 to 8 week tear, is that still enough for him to be in form for Mauricio Pochettino to say, I'm going to put you on my World Cup roster to face Senegal in Charlotte and then face Germany in Chicago because of those last two friendly. I mean, this window is the window to make the team.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless he goes on, like you say, describe a tear. If he scores 15 goals in 5 games, you make yourself hard to ignore.
I guess I can walk back my argument right now, and I just realized it because in 2022 World Cup, if Miles Robinson doesn't go down, if Chris Richards doesn't go down with a knee injury, and if Brad Guzan doesn't go down with an Achilles pop, all 3 of those players are on the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
Which led to Walker Zimmerman, which led to Tim Ream, which led to, just a whole.
Yeah, a lot can change. A lot can change. Go out and be good, and you might make the squad. Yeah. That was our catch-up on the first weekend of Major League Soccer. Let us know what you think of us talking more MLS on the show. I think it's well worth doing, considering Dunny's extensive knowledge of what is happening. Plus, of course, we're only 4 months away from the World Cup. Never do live counting. 4 months. So we're going to try and focus on it a bit more on our bonus episode in the week. And if you are watching us on YouTube, hello, my beard's coming back. That's good news. I look less unwell.
It really is.
Yes, not... In real life, it looks thicker than this.
Okay.
But on this camera, and especially the camera at the TalkSport studios, I still look unwell.
Yeah.
But in real life,
pasty.
it's coming back.
No,
yes.
not unwell. A little pasty.
Yes. Well, pasty is not a well word. You don't say that. People who look healthy after a holiday don't say, yeah, you look pasty. Where have you been? Caribbean.
I got a little San Diego sun on me.
You look healthy. I look like Renfield. Just trying to feed my master.
You look a little Adams-esque. You part of the Adams family.
Yeah, I look like Uncle Fester. It's deeply concerning. I'm going to hit the gym when my heart allows and maybe get a suntan. Anyway, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe as a podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever. That's Brian Dunseth over there. I'm Tom Rennie. Tim Horsey produced the program. We'll be back next week. Thanks a lot.